Hi everyone, I'm Helen Robertson. I'm a placements advisor as part of the Career Service, and I'm here to talk about finances while out on placement. So in today's session, we're going to look at some key information, look at tuition fees and maintenance loans, look to see at what to expect through unpaid placements, and if you choose an overseas placement, some information about budgeting and some potential next steps. So I've got some key information to consider when trying to decide whether a placement is right for you. So we've heard from past placement students that deciding whether they can afford to do a placement was one of the big factors in understanding if a placement was right for them. You can see that in the academic year of 2020-21, 90% of our Newcastle University students did get paid for their placement, and this averaged out at about £17,000 a year, depending on what sector or role they were in. But please do be aware that some sectors still don't pay wage for their placement students, so this is something that you definitely need to factor in when working out if a placement is right for you. Throughout your placement, you'll pay a reduced tuition fee, meaning you'll remain a registered student. You'll do a 120 credit module alongside your placement and get support from my team and the placements team, as well as a module tutor throughout your placement. You'll also receive other student benefits such as council tax exemption, access to student loans, reduced travel costs for students who are working in London, and other student discounts. So tuition fees while on placement. Whether you're a UK, EU or international student, you'll all pay the same tuition fee of £1,385 for the academic year. UK and EU students enrolled onto a placement year do have access to non-means attested tuition fee loans through Student Finance England. For your maintenance loan, UK students enrolled onto a placement year module should have access to a non-income assessed maintenance loan. Although we don't have the figures for the 2022-23 academic year, you can see from this year's figures that the non-income assessed loan is significantly less than your income assessed loan that you might be used to. So definitely worth factoring in if you're in a low or non-paid placement. Approximately 10% of placements are unpaid. These tend to be in the kind of charity, zoo and animal, and arts and culture based roles and sectors. Although there are some exceptions, your maintenance loan will be non-income assessed. So as we've seen from the previous slide, this is significantly less than what you would normally get. For more information on the roles where you could receive a full maintenance loan, please look at the student finance section of the Newcastle University website. If you're thinking about doing an unpaid placement, you need to understand if you can support yourself throughout the year before accepting the role. So doing a budget and understanding what other streams of income you have to support yourself is really important. If you're considering doing an overseas placement for the 22-23 academic year, there's definitely some things you need to consider to make sure it's financially viable for you. So if your placement is overseas, you may be entitled to funding depending on the location that you'll be working in. If you're working in an EU country, there's a good chance that you'll be on the Erasmus programme. This means you can apply for an income assessed maintenance loan and travel grant. You may be eligible for the Erasmus grant or funding through the Turing scheme. For information on whether this would be eligible for you, then please contact the Global Opportunities team. I'll pop their contact information on the final slide. It's important to understand if you can afford to support yourself while on an overseas placement before accepting a job offer. So it's good to factor in things like how much salary you'll earn, the cost of living for that country, so average rental costs, average bills and food, how much food costs, so to make sure that you can sustain yourself while living over there. Also do your research. You should factor in visa costs for the country that you'll be going to, and then any travel costs. Some of our students who go overseas come back for things like Christmas, so if you're planning on doing that, please look into whether you'll be able to afford to do that throughout the year. So budgeting on placement. Whether you're on a paid or unpaid placement, this is a really good time to understand how to budget your money. For those of you who will be earning a salary, it's a really good way to understand how to support yourself and manage your money. For those of you who are on an unpaid placement, budgeting is a really good way of understanding what's coming in and what's going out, so you can keep on top of your finances. We've created a really handy budgeting tool with our finance team for you to download and adapt to your needs. It's really good to make this as kind of personal as possible. So whether you have that kind of 8 weekly outgoing to get your hair done, or whether you've got kind of 7 subscriptions coming out at different times, the budgeting tool is a really good way of making sure you keep on top of your finances, and then hopefully you can save a little bit too. The only way to keep on top of your budget is to update and review it regularly. So we all go into it with the best intentions, fill everything in on that first month, and then don't look at it again until we're skint. So the best way to keep on top of it is by checking it at least 2 times a month. If you do receive an opportunity scholarship, please be aware that this is not paid to students who are on placement. So please factor this in while you're doing your budgeting. When you're making your budget, please also remember that you'll be exempt from paying council tax, so at least that's one bill that you don't have to pay. Now we're going to cover some potential next steps. So if you accept an offer for a placement role, firstly, massive congratulations, and then secondly, let the placements team know as soon as possible. I've popped our email address on the last slide, but it's cs.placementyear@ncl.ac.uk. So after that, you'll be added to a placements preparation page on Canvas, where we'll give you instructions on how to update your Student Finance England application. You also need to do this as soon as possible. You'll have access to the budgeting tool, which you can then download and adapt to meet your specific situation. If you do have any problems with finance while you're out on placement or want to talk to someone beforehand, you could also contact the student finance team here at the university. I'll pop their information on the final slide. That brings us to the end of our finance and placement session. If you have any questions at all, please do come through to my team at cs.placementyear@ncl.ac.uk. You can also contact Student Finance at student.fin-sup@ncl.ac.uk. They can answer questions if you're a bit worried about finances out on placement, and you can organise a one-to-one call with them as well. We've also got global opportunities if you're interested in understanding more about what's on offer to you. If you're looking at an overseas placement, you can reach them at global.opportunities@newcastle.ac.uk. Thank you.